Lovely to see everybody. Thank you for being here and joining us for our cohort number 3 for Deanne. And my name is Tamara Taggart. I am a friend of Chastity's. We met about a year ago, and we have a pretty special friendship now. And I'm always happy to join her for these events. I am joining you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I'm grateful to be raising my family here and joining you from here. The world feels very fragile right now, and it feels unsettled. And so I always feel grounded when I can step outside and plant my feet on the ground. And being here with you this morning has given me something to look forward to. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you. You may have heard me speaking with Elder Sequoia Ann Wanek from Squamish Nation. Sequoia has been with us for each of our cohorts. She is really amazing, and she's here to do an opening song and prayer. Sequoia, over to you.
Boychika, thank you, Tamara and Chastity. Kayachtan, I welcome each and every one of you to the ancestral traditional lands where you live, work, and play, and I honor, acknowledge all the First Nation lands where you may be from and where you live, work, and play. I'm Sequoia Ann Wanek from the Squamish Nation, and it's been an honor to be here for every cohort. And today is a really important discussion to have in regards to residential schools. And I put my hands up to each and every one of you saying, Chek Kwenmen Tomi, I'm grateful and thankful to all of you for coming together and have one heart and one mind to be here and learn and share experiences, especially those who are presenting. And I'm going to sing the Coast Salish anthem and then do a prayer to start your meeting and get you grounded and focused and turn it back over to Tamara. And unfortunately, I won't be able to stay with you. So I'm hoping that you have an awesome gathering today. As I always share, and Tamara knows this, and Chastity, I learned from my Coast Salish grandfather, Dominic Charlie, and my Longhouse elders that each person has an energy within themselves, and that that energy is like I enjoy the Star Wars, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Luke, because when I learned about the Force, I went, that's what my grandfather and Longhouse elders taught me. Each person has an energy within inside themselves, and we receive energy from Creator through the top of our head into our energy, and we can send our energy through spiritual prayers and messages to each other, regardless of where we are. And so I ask each and every one of you to not have your arms crossed, not have your hands clasped, but let's do Tai Chi yoga breathing and put your hands in your lap and do a few breaths to ground and focus yourself. And while I sing the song, pray for your family, friends, and communities, villages where you live, work, and play. Oh, Hoichaka. Shenquen mentomi katatonik chesiam. Yong so tinoy open man. Squalwin to squales to seats, Yonsio man, equatal chet yop, Siayat chet yop, O Kameo chet yop, Squalwin to squales to seats. Asking you, Creator, to watch over, protect, and guide each and every one of your children gathered here today, and all of their families, friends, and their villages and communities where they're from, and help each and every one of them have a shield around them to protect them and keep them safe, and help them with their squalwin, their feelings in their hearts and minds, and their emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. Asking you, Creator, to hear our prayers for all our family and friends who have serious illnesses, injuries, waiting for surgery, or have had surgery, have anxiety, depression, maybe those with have COVID, and those with anxiety and depression. Hear our prayers, Creator, for all of them, for their health, healing, and recovery. Hear our prayers for all of the Indian residential school survivors, and for those who didn't make it home from residential school, and for the day scholars, and all the multi-generational impacted families of Indian residential school survivors and day scholars, and help all of them with their squalwin and in healing in the days ahead. Sending our prayers, Creator, for all those children who have been found finally, and to send our prayers to help light their way to the ancestors and Creator, and to finally rest in peace. Asking you, Creator, to hear our prayers for all our family and friends who have traumas and battle alcohol and drugs, whether illegal or prescription drugs, especially because of the toxic supply, and hear our prayers for those who are homeless because of their traumas and battles. Help all of them be protected and safe and with their squalwin, and maybe find that healing path to wellness and recovery. Asking you, Creator, to lay your healing hands on all those who have lost loved ones and are feeling heavy sorrow, that our prayers help hold them up in the healing days ahead. And let us always remember, Creator, that our loved ones are always with us, our spiritual guardian warriors watching over us, and that they send us signs when we're low in spirit and need their help. We see a dragonfly that many of our people believe our ancestors or loved ones visiting. Same with ladybugs and an eagle, or something you find unexpectedly, or a song on the radio. And it lifts up that heavy feeling you have makes you have a smile. That's your loved ones letting you know that they're with you. Again, Creator, watch over and protect all your children here today and help all the presenters with their words. Help all those who are attending to hear the words spoken and listen respectfully, take in their hearts what's meant for them, set aside what they don't need today, and bring back another day to share with someone else as witnesses to the work today, and to be able to have a yet one halt seats up and excellent work today. Tama Kwetsi Snachum. Those are my words. Check Quinmen Tomi up. We're all grateful that you joined today. And as I always say, top left, peace of heart and mind, love from my heart to your heart, and air hugs. Wachayap yo, you all take care. And I'll see you soon. Hopefully next time I'll figure out my camera. So back to you, Tamara.
Sequoia, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before Chastity takes over. So you know, the chat is open, and you can ask any questions in there. Please make sure your mic is off and muted. And once again, thank you so much, Sequoia, for joining us, even without your video. I wish everyone could see her Star Wars collection that's usually behind her, but not today, not today. Chastity?
Thank you, Tamara. And thank you so much, Sequoia, for continuing to be a support of the DN cohorts and these online events that we are providing for anyone who wants to join us to learn from Indigenous women, learn about our experiences here in Canada, and learn from our knowledge, our wisdom, and our traditional customs and culture. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Chastity Davis Alphonse, and I'm the founder and curator of DN, an Invitation to Transform, which is one of the only online self-directed learning platforms in the world that centers Indigenous women's voices, knowledge, wisdom, and lived experiences. So I just want to welcome you all here. Thank you for all being here. And also just feeling the weight of our September 30th that's coming up, our first national holiday for truth and reconciliation on our journey. And this online event is in honor of the first national holiday of truth and reconciliation. And we are so blessed and honored to have the founder of the Orange Shirt Day, Phyllis Webstad, here as our keynote speaker, who's just an amazing Indigenous Secwepemc woman who has started a grassroots movement that has just taken storm across this country. And really raising awareness to the residential schools here in Canada. And we also have Jen Turner, who is here to talk about her experience taking the DN course as well. So really happy that all of you could come and take some time during your lunch hour to learn about DN, to learn from Phyllis and Jen and Tamara and others who are here joining us. So if you're new and you haven't been to the DN website, you can check it out at dn.ca. We have a cohort that's starting cohort 3 on September 7th. And there is a 15% discount code that's available for all of you here. The first 150 people that sign up get 15% off, and the promo code is DN21. And we have Devin, who is here as our support, and she'll be posting the promo code in the chat as well, so you can see that in the chat. So DN, our first modules are called Canadian History Through the Lens of Indigenous Women. And it's 4 modules. It's about 8 to 12 hours of learning. And we'll talk a little bit more exactly about what that is near the end of the call. And we can share a little bit more information on what that learning opportunity is. And we're also going to share a little bit from the residential school module prior to Phyllis sharing her story and her knowledge and wisdom with us. So I will be sharing a little bit about that a little bit later on, but just wanting to take a couple minutes to welcome you all here, to get us grounded into what DN is, and that you're all a part of the movement and accepting and in the invitation to transform by coming here today and hopefully going deeper with our online program. So looking forward to sharing a little bit more as we go. We do have 2 giveaways today that will happen near the end of the call. One of them sponsored by Chloe Angus. It's a beautiful spirit wrap. I'm wearing one of them in her newest collection. And we also will be giving away 4 scholarships, full scholarships for cohort 3. So 4 lucky people will get to take the course for free. So hope you can stick around until 1:15, and looking forward to sharing a little bit more with you as we move forward. So over to you, Tamara, to introduce our first guest.
Of course. And as Chastity said, I've taken the course, and it's pretty amazing. And I learned a lot, things that I have never been taught before. And so it's been a really incredible learning experience for me too. It's always good to hear from somebody who's taken the course and who has firsthand experience, and that's who our next speaker is. Her name is Jennifer Turner. She's the Director of Communications at Project Reconciliation. She's a huge fan of DN and the learning of Indigenous women. She participated in cohort 1 and 2. And Jennifer is here now to share her experience with us. Jennifer.
I hope you can hear me okay. I'm joining you from beautiful and unceded Coast Salish territory of Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And I do want to actually say, am I sounding okay? Excellent. I do want to actually be a little more specific and say that I'm at this beautiful hotel. I don't really think you can probably see the background, but I'm in this beautiful room that's filled with Indigenous art. And the hotel, it's pronounced Squatcheyes, and it's here in the downtown east side of Vancouver. And it's owned by the Native Housing Society. All of the profits go into, they own and operate this hotel, and it is a really beautiful place. So I wanted to acknowledge that, and encourage people to check that out if you're coming into Vancouver, because it is a beautiful way to support something where money goes to support something important. The first 3 full floors of the hotel are Indigenous artists and residents, and it's a great bridge actually into this course, because our country is so steeped, it runs so deep. It was really built by colonialism, and the institutions that shape our lives today really inherited that. So it has to be actively and consciously decolonized. And so this course helped me see my place in all of that. It is more than learning or passive learning, because when I took day in, I understood instantly that I was supposed to be here. I took the course and I was like, oh, wow, that sounds really intense. It's money though, and I don't have a lot of time. And maybe it's not so much for me. But really, I took the course and understood how I'm supposed to be here. and how this better future, which we definitely need to build together, is going to require all of us. And really, we're still living in this system that was kind of designed to keep us apart in a lot of ways. So it helped me see and examine my own colonialism. And that helped me in turn see ways to help me how to be a more active ally and dismantle it. I don't want to go into too much about myself or my own background, but I do have a long history of drilling in oil and gas. And this course even helped me see that. I want to acknowledge and hold up Sarah Robinson. She's so amazing, and she has this YouTube video. I want to remember what it's called, and I bet I will. I'll come back to it. But she talks so beautifully about the history of Canada and how like the land was seen as like this wild frontier to be conquered. And my first job in oil and gas was with a company, I won't name companies, but we were in frontier exploration. And as explorationists, we saw like the Northwest Territories as, you know, well, like it would be the first time we would be drilling that in that area. And so it was like the most exciting and prestigious, you know, thing to be involved in geoscience. But now I see how a lot of our worldview was it was problematic and not really complete. And it ties back to really deep roots where, and Sarah speaks more beautifully than this, than I can, but she talks about how land was seen almost like beautiful women and there for the taking, to which men were entitled. And that really spoke to me, especially in terms of things that I had witnessed in 10 years of drilling and seeing the impacts on communities and vulnerable women. I was the first woman to work on a lot of rigs and a lot of projects. So, you know, this brings us back full circle. My last and favorite thing about this course is that it helps you find your own active tools. It helps you find your own calls to action. And, you know, because without those calls to action, we're not really going to have the brighter future that we all require. So you know, in this course, you'll learn a lot about Indigenous women and matrilineal society. And matriarchs are really the way, like the future really always rightfully belonged to them. Now that's being realized, and that's the future that really we can all come together to create together. It'll be a future that belongs to everyone. So I really hope that everyone here, I hope that you really consider taking this course and being a part of something, because it is more than just taking a course. Taking a course it's not really the right language. This is really being a part of something, and taking that as a tool and being part of something much bigger and a much bigger community going forward. That's definitely what it has been to me. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about that further, but I don't want to take up too much bandwidth here today. And thank you so much for coming and taking your time to come here and learn about that and consider more learning and more active allyship. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen, for taking the time out of your day to come and share how DN, how you accepted the invitation to transform with DN and to continue to be an ally and actively work with and stand with us as Indigenous peoples to create the change that we need to see in this country. So thank you so much for being here. And I wanted to take a few moments to share about the history and legacy of residential schools here in Canada. And this is the presentation that I'm going to share is from an aspect of Module 2 in the Canadian history through the lens of Indigenous women on the DN website, and the course that we're talking about here. So I wanted to give an overview of, really briefly, and show a video of Dr. Lorna Williams, who is a part of the DN learning. Some of you may know her. And talk about residential schools before we invite our keynote speaker, Phyllis Webstad, to share her story and experience as well. So I'm just going to pull up my presentation here and just go through it for the next few minutes. For those of you who may be new to residential schools, some of this may be new to you. For those of you who have been on a learning journey for a while, this may be a really good refresher before we welcome Phyllis here today. So as I said, this is taken from Module 2, the residential school section, about residential schools in Canada. And the residential school system was started, really, we coin residential schools and give credit to our first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, and also Deputy Minister Duncan Campbell Scott for enforcing residential schools on Indigenous children across Canada. And at that time, there was many events leading up to the creation of Canada, many events that led up to the assimilation and the tragedy of the enforcement of residential schools across this country, and for every Indigenous child, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. Many events have led up to that, including the creation of the Indian Act that is still largely in place today, over 155 years later. The residential school policies were included in the Indian Act, and the main goal was to assimilate Indigenous children into Canadian society. And some of you may have heard that the mandate of residential schools was to kill the Indian in the child and to get rid of the Indian problem. And that's how Indigenous people were viewed by early settlers. That was woven into policies and legislation, that perspective, that viewpoint, and is still part of our foundation of Canada today, still part of our dominant narrative, that Indigenous people are seen as a problem, and that we need to assimilate into Canadian society. So this was one of the most aggressive policies that were created in Canada, that were enforced on if you were an Indigenous child living on an Indian reserve, if you were Métis living in a Métis settlement, if you were an Inuk person living in Inuit communities. This was a policy that was enforced, that you had to go to a residential school or an Indian day school. So for the first residential school opened in 1831, prior to the Confederation of Canada, and the last school closed in 1996. So whenever I'm talking about residential schools, I say, I bet that like 99.9% of us on this call today were alive when the last residential school was still open. So that busts the myth that residential schools are ancient history and that it was something that happened a long time ago. This is something that's happened within, I'm going to say 99% of all of us on this call were alive when the last residential school was open. And that was Gordon's residential school in Saskatchewan. So over this 150-year period, approximately 150,000 First Nation, Inuit, and Métis children were forced to attend residential schools. This was largely a dark part of our Canadian history, with the mandate to kill the Indian and the child. Indigenous children were not allowed to speak their language, practice their culture, They were not allowed to interact with their siblings. Many horrific things happened in residential schools. The scientific experiments were performed on Indigenous children. My mother went to residential school in Sechelt for 4 years, and she was a part of the nutritional experiments and ended up in the hospital 4 times with malnutrition as part of punishment while she went to residential school. There's articles that I've been reading recently that link those nutritional experiments that happened in residential schools to inform our Canada's food guide. So all of us learn about Canada's food guide in grade school. And the data that was collected for a lot of Canada's food guide were the nutritional experiments that happened in residential schools. So a lot of things that we are not common knowledge in Canada happened in these schools for generations, for over 150 years. Indigenous children were sexually, physically, emotionally, and spiritually abused in these schools. Thousands of Indigenous children never returned home, perishing in residential schools. We had about 139 residential schools across Canada. And recently, with Kamloops being the first residential school to do the ground penetrating radar, where the first 215 Indigenous children were found and hopefully will be laid to rest with proper protocol. So we're learning, we're at this crossroads or chapter or new pathway here in Canada where we're facing another tragic truth about our treatment of Indigenous people here in Canada. And there's only been about 8 residential schools that have done ground penetrating radar. So we have about 130 residential schools left to go and do ground penetrating radar to find our Indigenous children that have never returned home. And in the original drawings of these residential schools, there was always a cemetery attached to the architectural drawings. And so also when I'm talking about residential schools, I ask you to think about that today. So if there was a new school being built in your neighborhood and there was a cemetery attached to it, what would the perception of that be with the parents and the community? So just something to think about when there was 139 schools that operated across Canada and that Indigenous children were forced to be in. Each one of them had a cemetery attached to them. So we're at this new pathway, crossroads, where we need to face the truth of our policies that oppressed and committed genocide against Indigenous people. And so lots more to be revealed in the coming days. And this is a photo of Thomas Moore Cusick, which is only one boy of 150,000 Indigenous children that attended residential schools. And he went to the Regina Industrial School. His first day of residential school, this is a photo of his first day when he arrived. He was in traditional regalia, and you'll see that there's a radical transformation of him on the right the very next day. And this was typical for Indigenous children that went to residential school. We're going to hear from Phyllis about her orange shirt. And that kids, when they arrived to residential school, they weren't allowed to speak their language. Many of them were only fluent in their language. And they were stripped naked. Their clothes were burnt. They were all put into a shower together. I've heard stories of, lots of Indigenous children in the showers together being poked and prodded by the priests and nuns. And then their hair was cut and they were put into these uniforms. So some radical transformation, not being able to speak English, and not being able to understand what was happening to them or why this was happening to them. The other thing that happened at residential schools when Indigenous children showed up was Thomas was not called Thomas anymore. He was given a number. And so you'll see in the brackets beside Thomas's name, he was given number 22. So that's how he was referred to for his entire 4 years at the Muskow Patang Soto First Nation, at the Regina Indian Industrial School. That's how he was referred to for 4 years. And Thomas was, from the Muskatao Soto First Nation, and he attended residential school for 4 years and eventually died of tuberculosis. I wanted to show a video to end the overview of residential schools from Dr. Lorna Williams. And she's talking about the impact of residential schools on communities and asking us to think about residential schools in a deeper way. And so this is also taken from a video of from Deanne as well. So I'm just going to pull up the video. It's 3 minutes long. I hope everyone can see it.
The children were viewed as a commodity, and it was the strategy to civilize and Christianize. So it was that was the experiment. It wasn't just the residential schools. I think that were an important part of the story. It was the removal away from their families and away from their the community. And so I always ask people, imagine, if you come from, think about all the children in your community, and think about a time when they're gone, they just disappear, and there are no more children. What does that do to the people who are left behind? When you think about, how big the role that grandparents played, the role that uncles and aunts played. So, I told the story about my brothers. They were with my oldest sister's husband. Like, he's the one who was teaching them and managing their trapping. And so in our families and communities, that it wasn't just the birth parents, that it was all the people around them were involved in children. So you can think, so when you think about children leaving, just gone, like what is left in their lives when you take something that is so significant and precious, and it's just gone. We rarely think about what happens, what must have happened in families and in the community, the extended family and the community, when children were removed. And the purpose of removing them was to break that relationship, to break that communication. Because it's the parents and the grandparents and the aunts and uncles and all those significant people, they're the teachers. They're how we learn. They're how we learn how to be, thriving, independent humans, able to live within our society. They're the teachers, and the children were removed away from them, and for the intention of inserting a whole nother societal value system. And then when those children came back, what that must have been like. And children, all of a sudden all swarmed back, and they like in their relationship with their parents, their in their extended family and their community was just torn.
So Dr. Lorna Williams sharing and asking us to think about the impact of residential schools on the community, and sharing what that impact was like in her community for extended families. So that is just 3 minutes of a 14-minute video of Indigenous women sharing about the impacts of residential school in the DN program. And so I'd encourage you, if you want to learn more about that residential school section, to sign up for the course. The information will be in the chat for that. So I just wanted to wrap up by sharing a couple of stats about residential schools. So the impact on residential schools from Indigenous children, taken from the Truth and Reconciliation report, was 90% cultural loss, 84% loss of language, 64% sexual abuse, and 93% physical abuse. So high numbers of abuse from Indigenous children for generations. And lots more can be said about that. And so I'll turn it back over to Tamara to introduce our keynote speaker, Phyllis Webstad, who I'm so excited could be with us today. Tamara, if you'd like to take back over and introduce Phyllis, that would be fantastic.
I do, Chastity. I have one question to ask you. I'm so glad that you showed that video, because I think it really gives everybody a good idea of what to expect when going through the modules. Can you just talk for like a minute about why it's important for Indigenous and non-Indigenous people to work together, like that relationship? It's like, this course isn't to make a bunch of white people feel bad, right? This course is to understand. So, and that relationship is really important moving forward, like, hearing from Indigenous women and then non-Indigenous people, that bridge, that relationship moving forward. What does that do?
Thanks, Tamara. Yeah, I'll do my best to answer that quickly, because there's so many reasons why it's important that we move forward together in a better way. Because what you'll learn about in the course, and what I'll share a little bit about here in a nutshell, is that Canadian policy and legislation has been put in place to ethnically segregate Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians. There is a whole Indian Act in place that, if you don't know about, I encourage you to learn about, that has legislated oppression on Indigenous people since 1876 and before the Confederation of Canada, and is still in place today. Many of those policies have been, the intention is to oppress Indigenous people, but also to keep us separate as Indigenous and non-Indigenous people by placing Indigenous people on reserves, holding them captive there. For many years, they weren't allowed to leave without passes. And also by omitting the history of Canada as it relates to Indigenous people in our curriculum. And not having Indigenous children within the mainstream school system, having them in residential schools and Indian day schools, so segregating us. And it's important, why I feel it's important that we come together as all Canadians and to learn about our history as it relates to Indigenous peoples and as it relates to Indigenous women specifically, is that we've never had that opportunity before now. Indigenous women have been legislated to be silent in many of the policies, and that's informed our dominant narrative in Canada, that Indigenous women are, uneducated, broken, drug addicted, unfit mothers. And that's the only time many of us have exposure to Indigenous women, is through that dominant narrative in the media and in other places. And so why it's important that we start to broaden that our perspectives and come together is that we can learn about each other, we can build our relationships and be stronger. And when we do that, we can be a stronger country, not only for Indigenous peoples, but for all peoples, and be able to do the hard work. It's like the starting of the work is like, if you haven't started on your journey, is like a course like this, but there's a lot more hard work that needs to be done. I heard like Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, who's the president of UBCIC, say reconciliation isn't for wimps. And it's really about doing the hard work. And part of that is to be informed and to learn, and so that we can walk and stand together for all of our quality of life to go up.
Awesome. Thank you, Chastity. Okay, so I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to hear Phyllis Webstad speak. I think that most people in this country, I hope everybody in this country is familiar with Orange Shirt Day. And we've seen a lot more orange shirts in the last few months because of what's been happening and the information that we've all received about residential schools and as Chastity mentioned, the cemeteries and grave sites beside schools and the discoveries. So Phyllis Webstad is she's an incredible leader and a change maker, the true definition of a change maker, and has inspired the Orange Shirt movement right across this country. So her dedication and commitment have led to September 30th. Becoming the Day of Truth and Reconciliation, a national holiday across Canada that was passed in the House of Commons as part of the legislation this past summer. Phyllis is Northern Secwepemc and part of the Canoe Creek Indian Band. Phyllis is here to speak with us. It's my honor to introduce Phyllis Webstad. Phyllis.
Thank you for that. It's been an interesting. I think I might have to sign up for your courses. So how long do I have? Like I think Chastity said till like 5 after.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to stop you, Phyllis,
No.
unless you go until 3 p.m.
Okay, I can go for 3 minutes to 3 hours. So I'm good
Okay,
with whatever time you give me. But so Wade Hochwade, Phyllis Webstad Ransquest, Strachem Chatchtam Stakwin. What I said was, hello everyone, my name is Phyllis Webstad. I'm from the Canoe Creek Dog Creek First Nation. I'm coming to you today from Secwepemc, the land of the Shuswap in Williams Lake, BC. My community is about an hour and a half southwest of Williams Lake. So to come in to residential school was about a 2-hour bus ride. I'm third generation Indian residential school survivor. And what that means is Granny was the first generation to attend from 1925 to 1935. All of her 10 children, including my mother. My mother attended from 1954 to 1964. I attended for 1 year when I turned 6 in 1973, 74. I just turned 54 this year, so those of you doing the math. In July, I turned 54. So when I turned 6, I was sent off to residential school as well. Granny's eldest grandchild, my cousin, also attended residential school. She's a 1.5 years older than me and myself. So that's 13 of us. And also my son was at the last operating residential school in Canada when it closed in 1996. We didn't find out until 2007 when the monies were being given to survivors, and we thought that it was a hockey school, but we found it was an operating residential school. I grew up with my granny in Chatchtam or Dog Creek, Deep Valley, until I was 10. And then I went to live with my aunt Agnes Jack when she finished university from the University of Victoria. I'm just going to try to cram as much as I can in for another 10 minutes or so. So I had always wondered why Granny sent me to residential school, because by then she wouldn't have been put in jail for not sending me, as she would have been with her 10 children, because it was still law, but by then they weren't really enforcing it. So I put it on myself as a 6-year-old child, thinking I must have decided to go to that place. But then as I got older and I seen a 6-year-old child, I realized there's no way that a 6-year-old could make that decision. So that wasn't the case. I wouldn't have chosen to go there. And what I've come to understand is that I was prepared and sent by Granny because it was the thing to do. She had gone, her 10 children, her oldest grandchild, me, when I turned 6. Even though Granny knew our clothing would be taken away, and I get this from others in the family as well, even though money was short, Granny always made sure that we looked good and we smelled good when we went anywhere in public. We were scrubbed. Some of them even got a dab of cologne or whatever behind their ears, so they smelled and looked good whenever we came to town. And so Granny brought, this orange shirt story is, Granny brought me to town to buy something to wear for my first day at school, and I chose a shiny orange shirt. It was 1973, so the hippie age, everything was bright and wild and out there, and so I chose a shiny orange shirt. It's kind of that Nemo orange color. And when I got there, my shirt was taken away, and no matter how much I cried or wanted it back, nobody would listen. And where Every Child Matters comes from is how, when I first shared my story, that when I was there that year, I felt like I did not matter, because the adults that were in charge of us, the nuns and the supervisors, did not care if we were tired, if we were hungry, if we were sad, if we were lonely, if we were scared, if we were sick, whatever it was. We were very rarely tended to for our needs in any way. And that's what I shared when I first shared my story when the TRC came to Williams Lake in May of 2013. And that's how Orange Shirt Day started. And when we were choosing our slogan, we decided on Every Child Matters initially because of that. But the survivors, when they attended the residential schools, were children, and they're adults now, but when they attended, they were children, and they mattered. And it included those that did not come home or did not make it home. So Orange Shirt Day is a day to have conversation about all aspects of residential school. It's a day to honor survivors. It's not just a day for survivors. It's a day from the very beginning, and we talked about this when we first thought about it. It was for all aspects. It's a day to honor residential school survivors and their families, those intergenerational survivors, and to remember those that never made it home. And I'm just kind of looking at my notes that I was jotting down to make sure that I kind of touch on everything. And we chose September because September was the time of year that the children were taken away. We chose the 30th because we wanted teachers and students time to settle in, for the teachers to teach, and for us to have time to plan an event. And I heard an elder say that September was crying month at the TRC event in Vancouver, mid-September, before the first Orange Shirt Day. And when I heard that, like they were just a couple chairs away, and when she said that, I knew then that we had chosen the right day for Orange Shirt Day. And the way that Orange Shirt Day became viral is in our book called Orange Shirt Day. The society, we did this last year, but thanks to a person, she handed out 4x6 cards at the TRC event in Vancouver, created a Facebook page. So from the very first year, Orange Shirt Day has gone viral. And from the very beginning, it's as if it's divinely guided. Something else is at play here. And I always say, if I had done a business proposal and tried to make it what it is today, there's no way I would have even gotten close. And I, just like everybody else, I'm here, Orange Shirt Day, it's a movement that has a life of its own. So I quit my full-time job working for the Williams Lake First Nation in April of 2019 to do this full-time, because I could no longer work full-time and do Orange Shirt full-time. So we've had our office here since April of 2019. And just going over my I'm a survivor. I'm an intergenerational survivor. The same with my mother, the same with my son. And in a book that came out yesterday, it's called Beyond the Orange Shirt Story. This is 6 generations of my family story, starting with my great-grandmother. She was the first generation to send off a child to residential school. She was born in 1880. And so my grandmother, she brought to the residential school on the back of a horse. I learned that after I published this. So I'm still learning our history. And what my aunt said was, my great-grandmother brought Granny to St. Joseph Mission, about 20 minutes outside of Williams Lake, here on the back of a horse, because she was tired of the Indian agent bossing them around. They had to get a pass to go berry picking. They had to get a pass to go to the river. They had to get a pass to go hunting. Those that gave up their status, so their children did not have to attend residential school, had to leave the reserve. The Indian agent kicked them out at the end of the day. They couldn't spend the night. So in Dog Creek on the reserve boundaries, you'll see cabins that exist to this day. So for people that gave up their status, they wanted to live close to the people. So they built cabins right on the reserve boundary. So my great-grandmother was tired of being bossed around, which was like the Indian agent and the history that Chastity talked about. So she wanted her daughter to learn to read and write, to push back to the oppression that was happening and being bossed around. And so Granny was the first in our family to learn how to read and write. Granny was the youngest of 10. One of 2, her and her next older brother learned how to read and write. But my mother's story is also in the book, and because a lot of people ask, you talk about your grandmother, you talk about your aunt, but you never talk about your mother. And so Mom has her story in there. And the long story short, she was traumatized by her 10-year experience there, that she was not able to take care of me. So I was left with Granny, and she became an alcoholic, and I have her permission to say that. And that affected her being able to care for me. My father is white. I met the man who my mom said was my father when I was 21. So he's been my dad. But a little twist to that, I did my DNA in 2016 and found that he was not my biological father. So I did find my biological father and met him in December of 2018. And his picture that's on the back of the book there, he's behind me. So that's a picture of my family there that we took in last year in 2020. Regarding the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, it started a few years ago with Bill C-369, which was because of the election died, so it was reintroduced as Bill C-5. But I believe the 215 pushed the politicians to push C-5 through. We had been lobbying. It was stuck in the House of Commons since the end of November. The day after the 215, I was being told that it was going to be received third reading the next day. That was on the Friday. The following Thursday, it had received royal assent. So within a week, it had been given the stamp to be a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And so this will be the first year of that. And we are very busy here at the Orange Shirt Society, going from myself and my cousin last year into a full-time board member, helping to get through last year of Orange Shirt Day. We now have hired 3 full-time staff, myself, and the board member is still helping us, and we still can't keep up. We're being people, I've been knocking on doors, for years. Nobody's answering, but now they're like, grabbing me by the collar and wanting me to, to talk now. So it's really overwhelming right now, and we're all doing our best.
Phyllis, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I love everything that you're saying. And how important is it for people to support the Orange Shirt Society? Like, because I know you're not getting buckets of money from the government. You're not getting any of that. So I'm wondering, when we do support you with money, right? Because donations are a great way for people to support you. What does that allow you to do when you have the funds to support your mission, your dreams for Orange Shirt Day?
Yeah, we do not get government funding. We rely on donations. Orange shirt sales, we do not sell shirts at Orange Shirt Society. We have an agreement through Leading Edge in Langley, so that website is orangeshirtday.net. So orangeshirtday.net is where you can get shirts, and so we make money through that. And also we have a shirt policy out there now where we didn't ask for donations before for shirts, but now we are asking, send us something, even if it's 500 out of your 10,000 that you're sending to somewhere else, like give us something. And so what it allows us to have an office. We didn't have that. It allows me to do this, continue to do this. It allows me to have help because I'm not a techie person, and we're getting so many emails, a couple hundred a day. We have 2 people full-time just on emails right now, and answering. We have, everybody is coming and knocking on our door. The last week of September, where there'll be an orange sprinkled donut with Tim Hortons. So go buy.
Oh my gosh!
Orange sprinkled donut. We're going. The BC Lions. We're having September 24th. They're giving out 10,000 shirts at the BC Lions game. We just got an email I seen this morning from the Canucks. They want to do something on September 27th, and like I could just go on and on. It's So yeah, I just wanted to finish with our search started here at the St. Joseph Mission on Monday. So Tuesday was the first real full day of that. And so we should be hearing about what their findings are. Oh, and my grandmother lived to be 100. She passed in January of 2019. And her story, with my aunts, have her in here as well. And when I was at the mission, it was a place where we slept and ate. Everybody was bused into public school. So my teacher at the public school, her story is in here as well. And the proceeds of this are going to take 15 of my family to Niagara Falls next year for September 30th. I've never been with my son and grandchildren on September 30th. So we're going to go, and we're going to start planning for that. And yeah, so we're going to have a kind of like a family vacation. We'll do talks and go to different places as well. But so Niagara Falls turns orange for 15 minutes for the past couple of years, BC and US side. 1 minute equals 10,000 children, so 15 equals 150. So I'm working with the National Center. I sit on the Survivor Circle with them. We're doing a video. I'm asking Canadians to go stand on Mother Earth for 15 minutes during the time Niagara Falls is orange, and say the names of, I get goosebumps, say the names of your family that attended residential school. So all 150,000 are being verbalized in that 15 minutes, but I could go on and on, so I see I'm past my time. So Guksham, thank you for having me, and I'll be looking for the link to sign up.
Phyllis, thank you so much. In the chat, Chastity has been sharing and Devin have been sharing how you can support Orange Shirt Day and how you can support the Orange Shirt Society. There's lots of links there. Phyllis, your life's work is incredible, and thank you for doing this and for sharing your personal story for generations and how this has affected all of you, and the work you're doing is incredible. And I'm so happy to see your face and to put a face to your name, and to sit here and listen to your incredible story. And I would love to hear more and more and more. And where can people get your book, Phyllis? The book that just came out. Where can we buy it?
Yeah, I was anticipating that. I realized I didn't tell you, so I put it in the chat.
Okay.
Medicinewheel.education. So medicinewheel.education. It's a small publisher that publishes Indigenous truth telling. And I have 2 other books with them that there's curriculum that's for the schools as well. This one's in English, French, and Shuswap, and then this one is for the littler ones. But so medicinewheel.education in your local bookstores and like on Chapters, Indigo.
Yeah, wherever you buy your favorite books.
Yeah.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much. And Phyllis, I don't know if you can see the chat, but lots of people
I'm reading it as
sending you their appreciation for sharing with us. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap things up here. Chastity will give us, she is going to draw the 4 people that will receive the scholarships. I'm here to right now do a draw for the Chloe Angus giveaway. We have a beautiful purple lilac butterfly wrap. The promo code, look at that. The model is also stunning. That is a beautiful wrap. DN Love Fall, all in caps, is what you can use for a 15% off code. It's valid until October 1st. If you go to Chloe Angus, you can buy anything there for 15% off. This is the purple butterfly wrap, and we are going to give away one right now, and you have to be here for it. So if you are here, Brooke McNabb, can you please give us something in the chat to let us know you are here, and then Devin will connect with you for you to get. So I'm not watching the chat, but Brooke McNabb. Oh, there she is. She's here. Congratulations, Brooke. You get the beautiful wrap courtesy of Chloe Angus. So thank you again, Chloe Angus, for that. Okay, here we are, Chastity. We're wrapping up. Another cohort ready to kick off, and it's pretty exciting. So I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Tamara. And thank you, Phyllis, for being here. I can only imagine how many emails you're getting a day. You're saying a couple hundred. I'm sure you're being modest, because I'm getting about 100 a day to speak on your Orange Shirt Day, and I just can't keep up. So I just, anywhere I am, I'm telling people to donate to Orange Shirt Society. And, you know, there is the Indian Residential School Survivors Society and all of those other places that you can donate. But I'm also always saying Orange Shirt Society first, because they don't receive government funding. And it is a grassroots movement that Phyllis gives so much of her life to, and has dedicated the rest of her career to doing that. And just like, I just imagine if you weren't here doing this work, we wouldn't have Orange Shirt Day. We wouldn't have September 30th as our national holiday, and so much change that you've made across the country. So thank you so much for all that you do, and look forward to continuing to support your work any way that I can. And just want to wrap us up by sharing a little bit more about the course, and then I'll share the 4 people that have won the full scholarship to take the program. So as I said, it's an online course at dn.ca where we have 6 Indigenous women, 4 First Nation women, 1 Inuk woman, and 1 Métis woman sharing their lived experience through the lens of Canadian history. The course is $297. It includes 4 2.5-hour modules and 2 live 75-minute Zoom calls that are facilitated by myself. And you also get a completion certificate at the end. We've actually upped it to 75 days because we find that people need a little bit more time to go through the modules. It's 100% online, consists of audio, videos, visuals, songs, and reflection exercises. We have a number of cohorts that will be going through till perpetuity, but the first ones that are recent and why we're here today is to celebrate the launch of cohort 3 on September 7th, which I thought would be fitting since we're all of our children will be returning to school that day. So I thought we might as well start learning with them. With cohort 3 and cohort 4, 5, 6, and 7, you'll see the dates there that you can sign up for as well if you're not ready to dedicate the time. I was talking to Tamara a couple weeks ago, and I was just saying, like, I actually don't want people to sign up unless you have the time to do it over 75 days. And Tamara said that's different. Lots of people have online courses and they don't actually care if you take the course. And I'm like, well, I do. Don't sign up unless you have the time to commit, which is about 12 to 14 hours over the next 75 days, which is self-directed, and you can schedule in the time in your calendar. You can do like half an hour, 1 hour, come back to it. It's really accessible for you to complete in that time. And today, the first 150 participants that sign up will and use the promotional code. So make sure to use it, because if you don't, it won't give you an automatic. You need to put in the promotional code DN21. You'll receive 15% off. And then the course will start on September 7th. So hoping to see some of you there with us on the 7th. And I know that for sure, these 4 people, I'll read out their names, will be receiving the course for free and will be in touch by email. Tara Gudjohnson, Christy Check, Sarah Jeffries, Anita Makakis, excuse my pronunciation. And actually we have a 5th, so I'll honor that as well. Dale Littlejohn from Community Energy Association. So Tara Gudjohnson, Christy Check, Sarah Jeffries, Anita Makaskis, and Dale Littlejohn. Myself or Devin will be in touch with you for your free scholarship to cohort 3. And I hope that some of you can be also with us for cohort 3 as well. I just want to thank everyone for being here today, our speakers, Jen and Phyllis, and Tamara for continuing to be a part of the DN team. Devin, who's our newest DN team member, who's been vigorously in the chat, providing the support here and making sure you have all the links to everything that we're discussing. And as well as Adira, who's not on camera, but here supporting all of the DN stuff. And also Adira runs the DN email. So just want to thank her and her company, Spiro Creative. Again, this is not a government ran or supported program. It's a grassroots movement. So I feel akin to Phyllis Webstad as well for starting a movement to learn Canadian history through the lens of Indigenous women. And I really hope that you accept our invitation to transform. And Dien is a Chilcotin word, which I'm married into the Chilcotin Nation. And it means a person with the ability to transform. And that's where we have gotten the inspiration for the name Dien. You'll learn a little bit more about that on the website, but just want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart and really encourage you to continue to look into the Orange Shirt Society and donate to them. And get your orange shirt from the website that Phyllis had mentioned, and to be reflective on September 30th with your family, and continue your learning journey. And hopefully that's with us here at DN. So thank you so much. And I'll pass it over to Tamara for closing words.
Again, just to echo Chastity, I want to thank everyone for being here. It's always nice to see everybody's faces and share the good work that's being done with DN. Thank you for being here. I hope you can take this cohort. You saw the list of the next ones that start, so maybe another date works out well for you. But either way, it's well worth your time. I highly recommend it. Chastity, thank you so much again for inviting me in. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. See you later. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.